I said for a couple of times or more that the world of cinema and the world of video games were mixed from time to time in order to create different titles and forms of media that sometimes were good, sometimes were bad. You never know how the product will look when it is finished. It might be good, it might be a masterpiece, it might be a total mess, but this is in the eye of the viewer. When it comes to cinema trying to present the world of video games in an objective way, not being an adaptation of a story or a series, it might be a challenge which could make the product being seen as unique. Ready Player One is one such film that tries to present the world of video games in a way that becomes a whole new universe in its own unique existence, in which people might escape and become whoever they want to be and do whatever they want to do. The film was released back in 2018 and it was directed by the one and only Steven Spielberg and is based on a novel with the same name that was released back in 2011. The story of the film is a bit cheesy sometimes, but the way it is presented gives the element of uniqueness that makes the film or the novel to be remembered by the people. The context is this one. The creator of the greatest video game company died and left the keys to his empire hidden in the video game world, so the one who will find and complete the secret missions will become the sole owner of the empire. The people started to spend a lot of time in the digital world, not only to escape reality, but to find this great Easter egg, creating this huge competition in which evil corporations will do anything to get their hands on the big prize. The story follows a young boy called Wade who spent his time in the Oasis, the virtual world of the film, and who is the first ever player who got the first clue of the quest, and who will become the player who finds the Easter egg. At the first sight of the film, the story is a pretty good idea. It has an interesting context, it has some interesting details that makes the story feel like a video game. There are good elements in this film that try to give the viewer this feeling of a virtual experience, to make the viewer feel and explore the digital oasis. Due to its visual effects and the main context of the story, the film tricks the viewer with flashy and amazing scenes that look truly amazing, and it is not at all a bad thing. However, I feel like the way the story is written, it feels rushed. There are things that do not make sense, like why everyone is connected to the same virtual world, or what is their real job, or why they do live like that. The film tries to explain those things to the viewer at the beginning, it tries to make sense, but somehow it doesn't. There are things that are not explained at all in the movie, but they are presented in the novel and makes the reader feel connected with the world or the characters, which is quite logical. A novel has the possibility to detail a context much better than a movie that is limited due to its runtime. But the film's story feels rushed. What I got from the film was the idea that Spielberg had to make the film feel like a video game. The digital world is amazing and is presented as this beautiful and diverse world anyone can enjoy, while the real world is full of misery, pity, troubles and problems. And having the chance to escape in such an amazing world, it truly is something. This somehow, the idea that almost everyone is there doing something while they live their lives in real life, is an interesting theme for a unique story to be told. But apparently, the only thing that makes the film stand is only this concept. If I have to deeply analyze the film, yes, it presents an interesting view upon the world, upon the ones who want to evade the real and sad world to some place in which they could be and do anything. And it gives an idea that you might not know whom you will find in the digital world, friends that you play with them that are so close to you in the real world if you try to find them. But other than that, the film presents a casual, typical story in which a simple character, that is technically no one in that world, becomes an important opponent to a great threat that wants to control everything. Spielberg's fingerprint and cinematic style succeeded to maintain the idea as a possible film, and it brings other themes towards the viewer, like friendship and the desire of people to socialize with one another, something that mostly it happens in the film as an element connected to the virtual world, which is a thing that is happening in real life through video games and social media. But it also adds negative themes like control from corporations, the desire to do anything to have the upper hand and win everything. Those themes collide with the positive ones that I mentioned earlier, and somehow you might say that okay, the film might work and might stand, but those themes kinda fall behind the magical effect of the visual aesthetics of the film. Due to its rushed style of storytelling, the film might be remembered for something else, like references and Easter eggs, and people will tend to realize the story of the film is not that great. But for those who watch the film right until the end, yes, the themes presented by Spielberg can be sensed by the viewer pretty clearly. The story of Ready Player One, as I said, has some good themes, but the story falls behind and does not properly explain the context. Who is Wade, the main character? Why does the only thing that people do in the film's world is to stay in the oasis? Why does no one try to disconnect themselves from the virtual world and try to live a day or so in the real world, even though the world has its bad places and moments? As I said previously, just as a mention, Spielberg is presenting the story of the film as a video game. The main character is just a no one who is present in that world, and there are some quests that have to be completed, and apparently everyone tries to complete those tasks. The evolution of the characters, their motivations, the main mission, everything it feels to be just like in a video game. But why? There are some characters who might be presented as the resistance of this whole world, in which they try to win in order to free the world of the captivity it is in, but their motivations do not stick, at least to the viewer. None of the motivations stick, probably only the one of the main villains. And I will explain why. First, we have Wade, who lives with his aunt and her no-good and abusive boyfriend, and lives in the stacks of Ohio. He goes to the oasis to escape his life. This thing is explained only in a couple of scenes and only monologues, which might be fine, but it does not connect with the viewer at all. The moment the aunt and the boyfriend start to become relevant is when they are killed by the evil corporation in order to threaten Wade, so technically they become a motivation for Wade to find the Easter egg. And everything becomes real, not only just a fun game. I understand what Spielberg is trying to do here with the concept of the hero who has to suffer a loss in order to realize what is at stake here, but it does not work that well. He does not give enough time for the viewer to understand the world and the situation Wade is experiencing and why he goes into the oasis to spend time there. This is not enough. Second, we have Sam, who is kinda like a legend in the virtual world, who tries to win the Easter egg also, but apparently she is doing this in order to get revenge for her father, who died enslaved by the big corporation who wants to find the egg and control the world. Her motivation becomes more serious in the second half of the film, in which she is captured and put in a digital cage to work hard for every penny and debt she has. But again, the viewer has to understand that from a couple of shots and pretty rushed moments. I will not talk about H, Sho and Daito because there are side characters that truly feel like side characters. You do not know too much about them, only that they are Wade's friends in the virtual world and that they completed the first task after Wade and Sam. Other than that, not that much. I understand the concept of side characters that have to help the main character in its journey, and if we go to apply Joseph Campbell's ideas regarding of how a hero is created, I understand that you must have one or two characters that will be there to help you with their skills and knowledge during your journey. But in this case, the side characters do not help that much, mostly not at all. They are just there, they are the friends from a video game that will help the main player to defeat the main boss of the quest. The only one that might have an interesting motivation is Nolan, the leader of the Sixers. Presenting his character as this weird intern that tried to be around Holiday, the man who created the Oasis, who he was mistreated and now has the resources and power to obtain the keys of the kingdom. It kinda makes sense for him to be desperate to win that quest, that hunt. His actions might seem to be out of place and way too violent for the tone of the film, but yeah, they had to make the villain quite hateful somehow. As for the side villains, unfortunately, the same patterns apply to their development. There are two side villains, one for each world, to say it like this, that will try anything to help Nolan to get the egg. The one from the real life, Finale, is Nolan's right hand and she will do anything to help Nolan to have an advantage in this battle. She is not afraid to get her hands dirty and, by the looks of it, if Nolan would have listened to her better, he might have succeeded in his quest. But why is she doing all this? Well, because that's her job, apparently. Is there a need for something more? The other character, however, Irok, is the type of mercenary that is paid to get the job done, which makes sense for him and his actions. He is quite good at getting the information and finding people. a skill that totally helps Nolan to keep up his pace in the quest. IROC is presented as the muscle from the battlefield that truly might be an obstacle for the good guy's mission. He is a paid hunter after all. I like that at the end of the film, when Nolan deletes all the avatars, you see IROC being totally against it, like having a small ounce of honor in him. But he is just selfish and does not want to lose everything he has. A small development in one's character gives so much interest in it, making it interesting. Overall, the characters' motivations are just there. Maybe the main element of the movie, the biggest add to, isn't the characters or the story. Is the visual and the magic that Spielberg presents through the filming camera. I am saying that because somehow the characters in real life do not look at all with the characters from the digital world. After all, those digital characters are the ones that are true to the characters' personalities. Wade is skinny and small but agile and wants to be a lone wolf that kinda is part of a group. Sam is mysterious and her looks kinda resemble this shield that she created around her, that she is untouchable and avoids being contacted by someone. Nolan looks like this big bad corporate leader who wants to get his hands on anyone who stands in his way, while H, Sho and Daito look like what they might aspire to be, both physically and when it comes to their personalities. And the names they choose to have in the Oasis, it kinda gives a hint towards the viewer what their role in the whole story is, and who might succeed in the quest to get the big prize, the holy grail of the virtual world. It is not that hard for the viewer to understand the way the characters are represented, both in real and virtual life, but the viewer might associate the film with the avatars of the characters, their digital faces rather than the real life ones. The film's uniqueness goes to the digital world, and the viewer might remember this film only for this reason only, which in this case is not bad because the idea and the concept of the film was based on the digital part, and it was presented perfectly as a place of escapism and endless possibilities. And yet, with all those bad elements that might pop up in your mind when you are watching the movie, Ready Player One feels like an adventure, like a portal on the silver screen, that takes you through all those moments and places that you might want to explore some themes. Being made in a way to truly film the escapism is one thing, but having familiar elements here and there makes the film feel attractive. One of the things that I like when it comes to the way Steven Spielberg is making the movies is that it has a way that makes his films interesting. Most of them feel like it is a way to truly escape reality and enjoy an interesting fantasy. Whether we talk about action movies, science fiction movies, biopics, musicals or thrillers, Spielberg knows how to attract the audience and make them feel interested about the movie. The same thing happens with Ready Player One. Maybe the film might have its good and its bad things, but somehow the film feels likable, attractive. Probably I'm saying this due to the way the special effects present the virtual world, and how Spielberg put here and there some references to movies or video games to make the film feel more geeky, but I don't know, the film has something that makes me want to watch it. As I said, the film feels like an adventure and has elements that can point to that. It has a classical structure of a story that presents the evolution of a young hero who will save the world in a unique way. And maybe because it is simple, the other elements that enlarge the story are more attractive to the viewer than the hero's journey. But what could be a setback, I think, is an element of identity. There are many stories out there just like this one, with the same formula and the same idea. But when it comes to Ready Player One, the formula works. It gives that feeling of progression, of natural evolution, that almost every video game is giving the player this feeling, or any other classical old story it gives to the reader. Ready Player One gives this sensation, and with the help of the visual elements, it sticks in the mind of the viewer. It is not that complicated, it does not have a hard twist that can make it memorable, and because of that, the film can give the viewer this desire to watch the film. Spielberg knew what the viewer might want, and made this film interesting and attractive. With all the visual things and digital references, the film is simple and it locks in the viewer's mind, and it becomes attractive to the viewer due to those things. It is likable through its simplicity and through the way it shows its story in its own style. The film is not that bad if you take a second to truly think about it. It has some nice ideas here and there, it presents some basic elements of storytelling, it feels like a story of a young man who becomes a hero. It has its ups. The rhythm and the feel of rush can bring down the film a lot, but that depends on the viewer's choices and preferences. However, visually speaking, and from the point of view of cinematography, the film has a lot of elements that make it feel catchy. From the first moments of the film, there are so many pop culture and video game references that you have to hunt them frame by frame in order to get each and every single one of them. Overwatch, Batman, King Kong, Godzilla, Back to the Future, Street Fighter, Last Action Hero, of course the Iron Giant, Halo, there are just some of the references that can be seen by the viewer on the silver screen. It kinda makes like this whole film was made just for the gaming community and only them might get the references somehow. The digital part of the film is so radiant and colorful compared with the grey real-world representation. The colors make the oasis feel amazing and attractive, and Spielberg uses them in different ways here in this film to give you this sensation that, yes, even you might want to spend time there and see what is going on, and you have a place for everyone depending on their desires. What was like a surprise for me was the whole segment of the film in which the hotel from The Shining was recreated. For a couple of moments or so, I truly felt that the segment was filmed in the same way as Stanley Kubrick did it all those years ago. If you pay close attention to the image, you kinda see there are some old grains of a film reel, which makes the scene and those moments more creepy in a way, because it truly makes you feel like you are there in the hotel, and if you know what happens, you know what to expect. The scary moments that are connected with Stanley Kubrick's film are recreated quite well, even though they are toned down to a more plausible and young audience to be watchable. But all those elements that are an homage to the classic film that are made in that scene, yeah, they feel like they are like a series of greatest moments of The Shining, put right one after another in order to make you jump from the chair while you watch the film. The soundtrack is also used to make references here and there to some amazing cinematic moments, like for example the disco scene is pretty well known to make a reference to John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever, and the way the other scenes are made to truly feel like the viewer is in a video game. The use of music in action scenes or romantic scenes make the film's rhythm to be quite good and dynamic sometimes. Ironically, the action scenes do not feel rushed somehow. The viewer has the chance to see everything the director wants and understands the action of the context. Overall, from a cinematographic point of view, the film presents so many elements that can make it a good film. Spielberg is known for this type of magical tricks that can make a story to be more scary or more emotional or dynamic depending on the way he shoots certain scenes and what he wants to make the viewer want to see. If you know some of his movies like Jaws, E.T. or the first 4 Indiana Jones movies, Spielberg has a certain cinematographic style that makes the film feel likable. It might be good, it might be bad, but no matter the viewer's opinion, somehow Spielberg makes the viewer pay attention to something. He's like a magician. He shows you all those things that are beautifully visually, and yes, it makes the film work somehow, which I might think is a good thing for a film director to have the skill of captivating the audience. Watching it now again with critical eyes, Ready Player One is not a film that can be considered good, but it's not a film that can be considered bad either. It's one of those movies that can be watched with friends and family on a chill night. And I liked it. It was refreshing in a way. As I said, the film has its good elements, but it has its bad elements also. The story could have been more clear and easy for the viewer, considering the fact the writer of the novel co-wrote the script. However, Spielberg makes the film interesting, honestly. His cinematic style and attention to details makes the film a nice experience. I truly appreciate the way he created the world of the film, how he made all those locations and how many references he made in this movie. And for a fan of pop culture, that means a lot that you can see something you like referenced on the big screen or in another story. Ready Player One is a film made for someone. I do not know if it's totally for the fans that are part of the gaming community or not, but it has its audience. Being a film that can be watched by the entire family, I think you might say that it is a casual film, and there's not anything wrong with that. If there were small fixes here and there regarding the story, would the film be perfect? Of course, but after all, the message of this film is sent to the viewer. It understands its story, its meaning behind certain scenes. It is memorable in its own way. It kinda makes you lose yourself into its world. It presents a concept in which people want to escape the real world in a fantasy, which is one of the reasons so many of us watch movies. So yes, it's a nice movie after all. It's like that adventure that you might want to watch and enjoy for a couple of hours.